Good morning, friends, and welcome to day 13 of our virtual field trips here at the Gristmill Gardens. My name is Chris, I'm the guy in charge, and today's broadcast is going to be all about flowers. It's still pretty early in the season, but we are starting to see the first flowers popping out in our gardens, and I thought it would be a great day to show those to you. Now, behind me over my shoulder, you might notice we have our windows decorated for Easter. Like a lot of communities, we're trying to find safe ways for people to still enjoy themselves, and so there was a bit of a Easter decoration hunt where you could drive around the community and find various decorated windows. It was a good way of getting people out of their houses and exploring without violating any social distancing. So, anyways, that's just one of several windows that we decorated. Now, when the flowers first start coming in the spring, the very first thing that we see in our gardens are the crocuses, and those have already long since gone. But not long after them, we get the ones that we've already met earlier last week, I guess it was, and that is our cute little our cute little violets. There they are right there. They show up in all sorts of spots, and they are absolutely delightful. They have an incredibly strong smell. In fact, the scientific name for the chemicals in flowers that make aroma are derived from an old name for these things, these beautiful little sweet violets. Now, these particular kind of violets were often used as an ingredient in perfumes once upon a time as well. So we love them. If you look in our old episodes, we actually made some syrup with them not that long ago. Now, another plant that we have, another flower that we have right now that I quite like are, of course, the daffodils. The daffodils are out in bloom. Now, we're in the interior and we don't get warm nearly as early as the coast does. So their daffodils start going really strongly much sooner than us. Our daffodil flush is just nearly finished now. Now, the family name for daffodils is Narcissus, and you might recognize that name because of the word narcissistic, which goes back to an old legend of somebody who was incredibly in love with themselves and fell in love with their appearance while staring in a pool of water. Eventually, they so fell in love with themselves and did nothing else that they melted down into a puddle of nothingness, and then a flower, a beautiful flower, arrived instead. So those are them right there. Some of you might also know that daffodils, narcissus, are sometimes referred to as Rose of Sharon, and they are, of course, the national flower of Wales, with a name that I'm sure is all consonants. Now, another flower that we have here in our front garden bed right now is one that I love from my own childhood. And we used to have thick mats of these growing even in our lawn. Let me get down and show you. These are called grape hyacinth. Cute little flowers. They have a beautiful smell, although you really have to get your nose close to really appreciate it. Some places call these bluebells or bluebonnets, but their proper name is grape hyacinth. Now, that's what we have here in the front garden. I think it's time to explore some more of the site. So let's do that. Now, for those of you who are joining us this morning, you may realize that, again, I'm unable to do the broadcast live. That has a lot to do with our internet connection, and fortunately, tomorrow, they are coming to make some changes to it for us. So hopefully, after that, we'll be able to have a much better connection for you all. So we've gone from our front garden into our main garden area, which is still, pretty barren at this time of year. Sprouts are starting to come up through the leaf mulch that we've put in the garden beds for the winter. But there's not a ton of activity yet, except where maybe the violets have found a place to live, or daffodils. But there is one flower that I'm particularly fond of, and let's get down here and really look at it. These little guys are right here. They're related to primrose. They're called cowslip. And they're one of those weedy little flowers that comes back year after year. They are actually really quite a useful plant, actually. There are places that will make wine out of the flowers. There's you can eat the leaves, and from a sort of traditional herbal medicines standpoint, they're actually a very effective sedative and used for all sorts of nervous troubles, as they would say. Hysteria, nervousness, anxiousness, inability to sleep, that various parts of the plant could be used for that. Now, I wouldn't recommend doing that without a whole lot of research first. And a lot of different plants kind of look the same, so you don't want to make a mistake. But as a traditional herbal medicine, it's an interesting idea. Now, speaking of plants that you can eat, that have other benefits, and that you can make wine out of, I think I saw one over here already. And it's one of those other ones that, you know, is a weed, but also has a whole lot of use. So let's come here. Let's take a little look. Ah, perfect. Let's get right down into it. Dandelions! Dandelions aren't originally from North America. They're here now, but they think that they came over on the very, very first colonist ships that arrived in North America. And they brought it over as an herbal medicine. And obviously they spread incredibly widely. Now, you can eat every part of a dandelion. Not that they're all going to be tasty, but you can eat the leaves, especially when they're fresh in the spring. You can definitely use the flower petals for all sorts of things. I actually make a dandelion marmalade where I take all of the petals. But one of the interesting things about a dandelion is that these aren't actually a flower. It's made up of a lot of little flowers that are all together on one head. And then you know what happens to these when they mature. They turn into those beautiful puff balls that are great fun to blow on and spread the seeds everywhere. That's one of the reasons that these things are considered weeds, because they can get everywhere very, very quickly. But one other thing about a daffodil is the sap on the inside, you can just barely see that there, actually has a ton of latex in it. Yes, the same thing that's used in rubber trees to make real rubber. You can use dandelions to do the same thing, and there's actually a number of companies researching how to make rubber from dandelions now. So let's continue on our walk just a little bit more. We visited most of the gardens I want to visit today, but let's go up the hill here. Maybe I'll walk backwards and then you can see where I'm going, as opposed to me seeing where I'm going, heading up towards the White Building. I know, it's ridiculous. These videos often are, aren't they? It's hard to hard to manage these things all by ourselves. So here we go. We're coming up to another one of our garden beds that fortunately has a ton more grape hyacinth, has a ton of daffodils, but has something else that literally just opened up this morning. A tulip, one of our very first tulips of the season. Now, I'm particularly fond of this one because I don't know if you can see the leaves there, but they have this wonderful striping on them. Now, if we look inside the tulip, there's a whole lot of pollen. It's just bursting with pollen right now. Really wanting to meet some other tulips so that it can make more tulips. Now, I have no idea how that one bulb got there because there aren't any other tulips around here, but it got here somehow. And it's nice of it to show itself. So you've got, again, the tulip, you've got daffodils, you've got grape hyacinth. Not bad. There's one other plant here that I think is also kind of interesting. Now, this plant right here, I don't know exactly which variety it is. I'm not an expert on these things, really and truthfully. But this is a plant that's in the family Euphorbia. That is the same family of plants that you would find poinsettias in, for example. And it kind of makes sense. If you take a good close look at those flowers, it's hard to tell where the petals end, where the flower petals end and the leaves begin. They just sort of turn one into the other. And isn't it the same thing with a beautiful poinsettia at Christmas time? So I don't know exactly what variety that is, but it's neat to see that blooming too. So again, looking over my shoulder at the whole little garden bed. Now, that's what we have in terms of flower beds. But of course, there's other flowers on site right now too. So for example, right now we have some of our fruit trees are blooming. We've already seen, well, no, we haven't seen yet. You haven't seen yet, but I've been staring at apricot blossoms for I don't know how long now. Let's see. There's only a very, very few left. Let's find a really good cluster here. Right there. Some beautiful white apricot blossoms ready to turn into apricot fruit. But right next to it, we have just starting peach. Those, let's get that in focus, shall we? Come on. Little peach blossoms. Just getting ready to go. So, yeah. Ooh, actually, we're right here. This is not a flower, but I still think that this is pretty darn cool. And we just happen to be close, so let's do this. I have right here something else growing. Not a flower, but I love it. Rhubarb. I love the way that when it comes out of the ground, it's all crinkly and it unfolds and opens up. I just think that's so neat. Now, even me just rubbing this a tiny little bit, I can smell that rhubarb smell already. And I'm really looking forward to making things with rhubarb this year. Okay, so that's what we've got for fruit trees. That's what we've got for flowers in our garden. I can still think of one other set of flowers though, so we're going to go on one more little walk here. We're going to walk right past our beautiful white building, right past our summer kitchen, which, by the way, we'll be in again on Wednesday of this week. We're going to be cooking bannock together on that wood stove. Hope you can join us. So we are just going to walk down the hill here and cross the creek and go and check out just a couple more plants. Now, it really is a spectacular day here in the Similkameen. Look at that. Wish you were here. Hope you can be here sometime soon. We'll get there, right? We'll get there. In the meantime, we'll keep doing these and keep sharing what we've got with you. So, walking down here into the shade of our cottonwood trees where we happen to have our beautiful creek. This is Karamias Creek. This is what feeds water to our water wheel. That's looking one direction. And this is looking the other way. It's pretty nice. Sometimes we see ducks in here, actually. Sometimes we see great blue heron. There's a number of bird species that call these trees around the creek home. Now, our last stop today is on the trail going up to our upper garden. You see, we have the lower garden down here, and then we have our upper garden. Our upper garden is where we grow our fruits and vegetables and have more of our apple trees and things like that. But we've got this nice little trail that goes up. There we are. And what we have right now is all sorts of native plants, indigenous plants in bloom. So, for example, right here behind me, I have Oregon grape. Oregon grape, the leaves here look an awful lot like holly. Sometimes we actually use them at Christmas time to pretend they're holly. They're pokey in the same way. They are a handy plant, although kind of a pain because they're so pokey. But the berries in the fall can actually be used to make jams and jellies. We've done that in the past, and we'll definitely do that again. So far, they're looking pretty good. Next, we come up the trail just a little bit further, and we find another one of our plants. Isn't ready to bloom yet, but these are choke cherry. I love the choke cherries because when the fruit's ready and starts to ferment on the tree, the birds eat it and they get drunk. And it's hilarious to watch a drunk bird. Now, next, my favorite. My absolute favorite. Here we are right here. Saskatoon berries. Or as they're called in the Okanagan language, sia. A very important traditional food source. And I love them. I love Saskatoon berries. If you're in the States, you might call them June berries instead. But they are very common all the way up to Alaska, all the way well down into the States. You get these beautiful blue-purple berries coming from this particular plant right here. Now, one last bloom, might as well. Our beautiful willows, they look very yellow right now. That's because they're covered in flowers. Those flowers will disappear soon and the green will take over. And then we'll have this wonderful weeping willow that's bright green. So, that's just a little tour of some of the flowers we have here at the gristmill, especially right now in the middle of April. I hope that you're well. I hope that you're going to have a great day today. I hope it is as sunny and bright and perfect as it is here. Now, if this is the first time you're watching one of these videos, please take a moment and check out our website at www.oldgristmill.ca. Learn a little bit about us, find out what we're up to. If you've been watching these videos for a while, please consider supporting us. Two ways you can do that. First is by spreading the word, telling more people about these videos. I'd really appreciate that. The other thing that you can do is to get on our website, click on the support button, and buy yourself a season's pass to the site. That little bit of money makes a huge difference to us to pay the bills, to get our internet fixed, to take care of this place when otherwise we're not generating a whole lot of money right now. So please take a moment and do that. Now, tomorrow's episode, we're going to be putting seeds in our garden. Up there, actually. We're going to be going all the way up to our upper garden and putting some seeds in the ground. On Wednesday this week, we're going to make bannock together. On Thursday, with a little bit of luck, of course, we're actually going to be making our water wheel turn for the first time this season, which is pretty exciting that our 143-year-old water wheel, back here, there it is off in the distance, that will be turning later this week, and you're going to help me out. And then on Friday, we're going to have some fun in the kitchen. We're going to grab a few things and we're going to play with puff pastry. I'm not going to make the puff pastry. That's too much work for me today. That day. But we can still have some fun with it, and it's something that you can do all sorts of things at home too. So, thank you again for watching, and I hope you enjoyed today. We'll see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye for now.